you and your job and your team and your department and what feels good to the conversation, for you. And, it may look a little different because, if you are vying for a promotion, maybe you put the goals on the feedback of what you're working on. This is more about, day-to-day updates. But, you could have something that's more about here's what I'm striving towards. The slide can look very different. The slide can look totally different, however you need it to. Okay. So
Rachel, I also have,
yes,
you
go
might
ahead.
get to this, but a really quick question, because in the beginning, pointed out about career search and just identifying, roles, industries, if it's a different industry. And I guess the question is, how do you have recommendations for the group here? Say, for example, you're in an industry, you don't want to be in this industry, but then how do you go about finding what are the industries out there that might be interesting to me that I could delve into?
Yeah.
Because that could be a really daunting process that could stop someone from going forward, right? Or even a role. Like, what are the options, and how do I go about learning about that?
Yeah. And so, our last conversation on career exploration, of course, was all about that. And if you remind me, I mean, I'd love to send out the information, of course, after today. And I could try to link some very specific links that are more geared towards exploration. But you'd want to do, I mean, there's a lot of self-reflection, and then there's a good amount of research, right? So with self-reflection, if you're thinking about industry, you want to think about essentially the topic areas or the problem areas that you really feel are important or interesting. So this can be in your everyday life. Like, what topics do you really enjoy thinking about or talking about? Or you might be scrolling on social, or you might be reading the news. What do you really pay attention to? You also may notice what you don't pay attention to. So you really want to ask yourself, what gets you fired up? I mean, there's so many problems in this world, and it's like there's some things that you feel really intrigued about and some things that you're like, I don't care about this, right? And that's okay. You don't have to be the martyr who cares about every problem, but I would just start noticing in your everyday life of problem areas or types of communities or types of people or types of issues or challenges or areas of innovation. It could be a product, a service, a type of company. It could be an app on your phone, or it could be a retail brick and mortar that you love, right? What are you always raving about to your friends, or what are you using in your everyday life that you really, align with, that you believe in, that you feel has impact? That's the industry bucket. Is, what are we all here for, right? What does this company really do? Who do we help? How do we do it? Why do we do it? So starting to notice, I mean, I have a career assessment that can help you trigger some of these thoughts. And then once you have some ideas, you want to have a short list of those roles or industries, and then you do a bunch of research, and you also network with people in those areas. And then when you start to really learn, that's how you can get the deep exposure to things that might be newer to you. I'm happy to talk more about like networking and how to do all that. If people have questions, let me know. But that's kind of the very quick answer. Cool.
Right.
Okay, let's keep going. So proactive, right? This is what it's all about. If you're in a current job, even if you're not job searching, you want to think about what can I be doing proactively, right? So having a mentor or a coach at all times, even if you're meeting quarterly, I mean, I would say like once or twice a year minimum, but like quarterly is great. And even monthly is wonderful. It just depends. Are you in a moment to like, sometimes we're in a chapter of our life where we're like, I don't want to worry about my career right now. And sometimes we're like, I'm kind of focusing on this right now, and I really am vying for that next step. And if you are, I mean, you could be meeting with somebody weekly or every 2 weeks or obviously once a month, whatever cadence feels good. But truly giving time and attention on a recurring basis is kind of half the battle, even if it's just a mentor. Where, again, if you have the space to just speak out loud and just voice what's on your mind, where you're at and where you want to go, that's a great starting point, right? And then, of course, you could always ramp it up if you want more time.
Okay.
The networking would be, the next thing, right? So meeting somebody who's in a target role, meeting somebody who's in a team, in a company, in an industry that's interesting to you. So having an informational meeting. When I say a networking call, it's literally a phone or Zoom or in person, but like a 20 to 30-minute meeting where you're actually asking questions and you're learning from somebody who works in another area, an area that's interesting to you, and you're building organic relationships. That way, if you need a job or if you want a job, you've already built these relationships proactively. Another thing you can think about on a monthly basis is your personal branding, right? Thought leadership. So, do you want to write a blog? Do you want to update your materials? I mean, once or twice a year, even if you're not moving jobs, it's good to keep your materials updated, resume, LinkedIn, things like that. You could share articles, you could speak on a panel, you could start a portfolio or a website, or again, promoting yourself internally with those one pagers. The documentation of who you are, what you've done can look a lot of ways and your expertise. But again, I would like to think about these proactively. If you're not job searching, it's a great time to do it because when you are job searching, you just, not that you have less time, right? It just depends on whether you're job searching on the side of a job or if you're not working at all. It's hard to squeeze it all in. So these are proactive things you can think about, ahead of time. Researching and exploring, right? So you want to think about, where do I want to go next? Right? Let me learn, let me meet people, let me understand my options for roles and industries, right? That's a component of your proactive growth. Upskilling, right? So it could be a once a year activity. It doesn't have to be constant, but there's so much going on with AI and technology. So really just ask yourself, what's the next skill I should master? And try to always, periodically work that into your plate. Lifelong learning is the name of the game here. And this could be through like project based, or it could be like a course. I call that a little more passive learning versus hands on. I mean, you could get involved. A stretch project at work is that form of upskilling, but really ask yourself, what are the skills I need to pay attention to? You could even test out your entrepreneurial chops and see, what can I start offering on the side. I mean, that's a fun way to stretch your own capabilities and things like that. And just reflection. How am I doing? What's my feedback? What do I want? What's going well? What's not going
Yes.
well? And that's going to illuminate where you want to spend more time or where you need more support. Okay. Um, this is obviously very small, but feel free if you want a screenshot. This is kind of a checklist where, even once a quarter, you want to ask yourself, how am I doing in my current role? How am I doing more broadly in my career? And how am I just doing like holistically? So, my mindset and my accountability, and just like, how am I doing in life? Like, I've had people who start career coaching and they're like, I need to move cities, like, or I need a divorce, or yeah, I mean, like, I've seen it all. And so you might need a conversation with a loved one. You might need, whatever it may be. You might, I've had people where like they'll be like, I got a new desk, I got a new monitor, I changed the feng shui in my room, I changed my sleep schedule, I joined this gym. I mean, it could be random things that don't seem like directly relevant, but your ability to focus and stay productive and stay innovative and really invest in yourself. There's holistic elements of how you're doing in general that plays into your interest in, developing your career, right? So think about yourself holistically. And then again, for that middle column, when you're thinking about your career pathing at large, you know, how am I doing with, like, do I know where I want to go? Do I have I been networking? Have I been doing research? Have I been doing upskilling? Have I been looking at internal projects? And have I been thinking about personal branding? You don't have to do all of these at the same time, but you can sort of cherry pick. And so the beauty of doing this quarterly is you could say, all right, you know what? Look, I've kind of ignored my personal branding for the last few quarters. Maybe I should make that the focus, right? So you can sort of toggle on and off. And then you're sort of always getting to everything eventually, right? And then, of course, internally, that's your first focus. Make sure you're meeting expectations, exceeding expectations, thinking about your growth. But this is sort of a holistic agenda you can refer back to. Accountability, right? This is the name of the game. It's like one thing to just say all this, but how do we get it done? So make a priority list. Again, you don't have to do it all at once, but what is the next immediate priority? And when do you want to kind of work on that by? how much time are you going to put in, how much time, in general or per week or per day, and make it realistic, right? Like, and I love a minimum and a maximum, because you may say, you know what, minimum, every month I need to do, I'm going to share one article on LinkedIn or something like that, where you could say maximum, you know what, maybe my ideal would be I spend 20 minutes a week actually writing a blog or something, right? So there could be like a bare minimum and then like the nice to have. And usually we end up falling in between, but write down these goals and have them in front of your face somewhere, right? When and where are you going to do the work, right? So making it easy for you to keep that plan, and just thinking about your support system. There's people, there's tools, and then there's information. There's so many different ways to get support to make sure that you stay on track, figuring out what's the most supportive. I will say the people-based support, even if it's a mentor or a peer or whatever it is, if you do co-working, when you have another human there, like, and they're working on a goal and you're working on a goal, or if it's somebody you can speak to directly, that's kind of one of the best ways to stay accountable and make sure things are top of mind. But of course there's tools and other ways to make sure you get the support you need. That is kind of what I got for today. I mean, this is what Woken does, just so you all know, and I'll make sure you have our links so you can stay in touch. And of course we're doing events here. We do lots of different events with different organizations. So even if you join our email list, you'll make sure to hear about different free things that we have, and we have a ton of resources as well on our website that are all free. So we're here to help, and I hope that was a helpful. I tried to be comprehensive because advancement again can mean so many things. But I'm an open book. If I didn't cover something, if there's something on your mind, let me know, and I'm happy to stick around for questions.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rachel, if we can use the last 15 minutes, anybody, you can pop in the chat, or please feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand, and we'll call on you to ask a question. But any questions, please.
Priya, yeah.
So first of all, Rachel, amazing webinar. Thank you. You really did a great job hitting the highlights and giving us enough time for chat. I really appreciate that. The second thing is amazing timing. So this is when I got promoted to a leadership role, and I was like, how do I structure, my next 3 months or 1 year to get there? And I also realized when I took the role that in 1 to 2 years from now, I'm moving from here, because here I'm getting an amazing leadership opportunity I want to take full advantage of. But eventually, I want to be in a new industry. So, any insights on how I can make it reasonable? Like, I don't want to kill myself trying to do too many things, but how to make it reasonable? And, how do you work with that?
So, meaning like, okay, so if you're exploring other industries and you're sort of like, I want to be reasonable, what to me, what that means is, how do I set goals that are manageable and not sort of burn out over all of this? So, I mean, figuring out what are the steps, right? So if you want to get exposed to a new industry, there's different ways to do that. Of course, there's researching and learning, but truly, I think networking is one of the best ways. And so with an industry, even just being part of like an email newsletter or some sort of group or membership or association. I mean, the WIT Network is awesome. And within the WIT Network, you should look for people who are in the industry you want to be in. But outside of that, you could look for very specific industry communities and groups. If you're on that email newsletter, you're going to know about those upcoming events. So it's kind of like an easy way to like be passive about it, because then, if you're part of those groups or memberships, they're going to hopefully, be notifying you when things are going on. And if you can show up to some events here and there, that's a great way to do it. Now, if you want to be a little more kind of focused around it, you might ask yourself, what else do I need to do to know about this industry? Is it upskilling? Like, do I need to actually learn a skill in order to be adept at this, right? And to be recognized with my ability to go work in that area, right? So is it upskilling? Is it networking? Is it joining groups? Of course, a little bit of research. I'm trying to think what else, but And then truthfully, it could be as simple as if you have all these listed as an option for yourself, you could have a once a month 30-minute, you know, calendar invite, right, on your calendar. Like just do it like as a meeting with yourself
Mhm.
and just say, Priya's career time. But then specifically, you need to, make it easy for yourself to figure out what does that mean, right? So what what are my options for how I can actually go about this? So in the body of your invite, give yourself some specific steps or ideas. And for that month, again, you don't have to do all of those, but you just pick one. And even just 30 minutes of research goes a long way. You may uncover something, or you could even search with networking. You could search on LinkedIn and say, let me find somebody who's in that space. Maybe I know somebody who could introduce me to somebody, or maybe I have an alumni networking connection that way. So you might find people, you might find groups and resources, or you might just spend the time learning and like literally reading. It could be blogs, it could be YouTube, it could be any sort of AI bot that can give you information, but literally learning about that space. But truly, I think becoming a part of it, like joining an email newsletter or joining a membership or joining a group, means you're entering into an industry. And a lot of these groups allow you to, I mean, sometimes we have to pay to join, but they don't always require you to work in that space. So if you literally just like sign up to be part of that group, you're literally entering into the space that you want to be in, even if you're not in it yet. And so then you're surrounding yourself by the right people, right?
Sounds awesome. Thank you. I actually had a couple of insights. So I think I love your quarterly, I mean, just a sample that you gave with regards to how we can structure it. And I'm going to use that in my conversation with manager. And probably this path moving forward for me is work on the skill I'm getting in my current role, strengthen it, upskill in that, and use that as a strength, which I will use when I leverage in my next industry and go that way. And I love your idea about having a mentor. Probably I should have one outside in that area, and LinkedIn. That's a great idea of sharing post and building that.
Yeah, and the mentor is a great point too. Like if your mentor is just like in a role, or a company or doing the work you want to be doing, I mean that's perfect. Now, really do the research, find a mentor, and you'd have to ask, you'd have to say, would you be willing to meet with me once a quarter or once every 8 weeks? I mean, it depends what cadence feels good to you. But find that right person, show that you've done your homework, show that you would be so grateful for their time. And you could also say, I'd love to just try this for the next, 6 months or 6 to 9 to 12 months. Would you be open to that? So show specifically how you think the mentor arrangement would go. And that way that the mentor feels like you're using their time wisely and that you're prepared and all that good stuff. And yeah, I mean that's it's a quick win. It's an easy starting point. Like your connectivity to where you want to go, right? If you've got a mentor in that space, perfect, right?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Yes, Anju.
Hi again. Rachel, so this is, I think one of the things about, career growth, whether it's job search or within your industry, within your company, it can be a very long process, and you can lose steam, right? Or it can be very daunting, especially if you're looking to move to a new company or a new industry. Do you have any tips or things that you can share with the group here about how do we keep going? How do we keep the momentum going? How do we stop from getting complacent? How do we stop from saying, "Oh my gosh, this is too hard," or
Yeah.
I'm 2 months in and I still don't have a clue, what I'm interested in, what I want to do. Just something to keep our wheels turning and keep
Yeah.
us having
Well,
that
I think
fire
it
lit under us
depends.
and not
Yeah,
let
it
it burn out.
definitely depends on your goal. Because, like, say you're job searching and you've been trying to do that and you're not succeeding, we've got to look at what activities have you been doing and what should you be doing, and like really diagnose the job search specifically. If you're like, I've been trying to do exploration but I can't figure out my path, again, what have you been trying, and what are the different activities that would help you there? So for each of these goals, there's a different way to kind of diagnose like what have you tried, what have you done, and what might be the reason you're running into a challenge. Now, some element of job search is just, it can be difficult and it can take time. So I would say at the bare minimum, even for things that require a little persistence and patience, you just want to, honestly, having another pair of eyes and ears is a great way, because otherwise you feel like you're spinning your wheels. And it's, a lot of people think they should know how to do these things on their own, but career coaches are here. We're here to help, because I often educate and teach people what are the right tactics so that you can be efficient in whatever it is you're trying to do. So no one may have ever taught you how to job search or how to do exploration, and so that's not anyone's fault. But having support, if it's a peer, a mentor, a coach, whoever it may be, to me, the ability to look at, what have I done, what have I tried, what's working, what's not, and what can I do differently, is kind of the most refreshing and like comforting way to think about it, if you have a goal and you haven't yet achieved it, right? Because the last thing, what Einstein says, if we're doing the same thing over and over and we're not, achieving results, right? That's not what we want. So the variety and the differentiation of perspectives or different tactics to get where you want to go. But again, it depends on your goal. So get super clear. Am I trying to clarify my path? Am I trying to job search? What is it I'm trying to do? Internal mobility? Am I trying to get a promotion? And then what have I done? What have I not done? And honestly, getting that pair of eyes and ears, because, you know, even if it's a quarterly touch point, right? Like, I think the hardest part is when you're fully on your own, right? It feels difficult, and you feel like you should have all the answers, but there's no one that is expecting you to, except like yourself. But it's not right. Like, we weren't born, like, why does anybody go to a therapist or a financial advisor or a real estate agent or whatever? I mean, we go to these people because we can't be all the jobs and we can't know how to do all these things, right? So it's okay to get support and guidance in careers. So like, you're the one in the driver's seat. You're the one who has different strengths and interests and capabilities, and you're going to do the work. But somebody to kind of help, support you and figure out the next steps so that you can feel efficient with it, right? It is tough when you put in a lot of time and you feel like you're not getting where you want to go. So finding resources, and again, those tools that I mentioned, there's people-based support, there's tools that can help you stay on track, and there's information. So you have to ask yourself, do I need to learn more about how this thing works? Or do I know exactly what to do and I just need to ramp up my productivity around it? Or do I need, people around me that are going to help either drive me forward or give me, new ideas, new tactics? So there's a lot of different ways you can get support, but I would figure out, what do you need, right? Based on what you've done, what you haven't yet done, where you want to go. But don't pressure yourself to just know it all. It's okay to get support through it, right? Like, we weren't born knowing how to just do careers. Maybe I was, but not everybody was. And that's okay. That's okay. That's, it's okay to get support. I hope that helps.
Oh my God, no, that was amazing. I love it. And hopefully that was helpful to everyone. And I think it's so important, and not, you know, I think two takeaways. I mean, the WIT network brings people like Rachel to our community and to everyone for these reasons, right? Because these are difficult things and we can get really bogged down with and then give up. But our work is so much a part of our lives, and it is for everybody because the majority of us have to work. So I would say, to me, I think investing in a career coach over a therapist, over a trainer, is more valuable than anything, because as you mentioned, Rachel, it is our life. It is part of our life. It's very, people say, oh, there's work and there's life. No, it's a portion of your life, right? And when you're happy in your job and you're excited and you love it, it filters into the rest of your life. So we will share Rachel's information, but I would please highly recommend. Rachel's helped countless number of people go through their process. It is daunting. And I think to have you, Rachel, and people like you, but you specifically, I think is an amazing gift for all of us to be able to take advantage of.
Amazing.
Thank
Priya,
you so
did you
much.
have another question?
I see one more hand. Yeah. Is it Priya again? It is Priya.
Sorry, I'm not able to lower my hand. I didn't mean to keep it raised. For
That's
some
okay.
reason, the interface is not letting me lower it.
I wish I found Rachel years ago when I was looking for my career change.
Yeah, it's funny. People always they mention that to me because we all go through this at one point, right? There's always a change and a chapter, and even if you didn't have the support in the past, you can have it now, and that's the key thing to think about is where you're at, where you want to go, right? But I hear you. Yeah, people do tell me that a lot, right? So I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Get you
I'm
now, so
glad
thank you.
to meet all
Yeah.
of you. And yeah, please do reach out. I think the team will send out some of my information so you all have it. And we'll be back with more events. But yeah, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me grab my link for all of you. And yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. And you can holler at any time. I'm here. And we always offer a free chat as well. So if you wanted to chat one-on-one, please, let's set that up. And yeah, if
One bad
nothing
thing
else,
is
yeah.
I thought I set this meeting to auto record and it did not start recording until you said the word record. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I checked and it wasn't. So we only have the second half recorded, but at least we have the second half. So thank you for saying that.
Of course. All good. Yeah, well, I'll give you guys 3 minutes back, but I'm so grateful we could be here, and please stay in touch and let me know how I can support you all.
Can I
Thank
ask you a question, Rachel, since
Yeah,
no
go
one
ahead.
has? So, how is it the process of working with you? I mean, just
Yeah.
to get an idea of how that process starts and what can someone expect?
Yeah, so it depends on what you want to work on. We do have a lot of tools that can complement, but there's conversations, right, which is the one-on-one coaching, and that can either be weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. We also do have quarterly, and then in between the conversations, there's always, what is the next step? Depends on what you're going to work on. But we have a lot of tools, whether it's our software or different Google Docs, Google Sheets, all the templates that you saw today, plus lots more. So it depends what you're working on. And yeah, we're just setting a roadmap, and usually the conversation evolves, right? So if somebody's clarifying their path and then they're thinking about upskilling and then they're doing their personal branding and then we're doing maybe job search or networking or interviewing, or we could be working on a promotion. So everybody has different goals, right? And so we just adjust our conversation and what tools you need based on what are your priorities at that time. But we're very holistic. We support people in all of these areas because they're all very intertwined. So it's just a question of prioritizing. So yeah, we've got the coaching conversations, we've got tools, we do texting and emailing. We also have group coaching and group co-working. So we give you a lot of different sort of formats of support throughout the month. And it's just a question of the only difference is the cadence of those one-on-one conversations and how often you feel like you would want that or need that. Weekly is like somebody who, really wants that frequent support. Bi-weekly is sort of that nice middle ground. Monthly, for somebody in career advancement, if you don't want to chat all the time, but you still want to have a focus on your career growth, monthly is nice, but totally depends. I have people who are on our weekly or bi-weekly plans and they're just navigating the workplace, they're navigating their team, they're navigating relationships, they're just talking about work and all the complexities of how do I do better at my job and sort of handle all the things in front of me. So the cadence is just what level of support feels good. But yeah, that's kind of the quick way I can explain it, but let me know if that makes sense or if you have
No,
any
thank you.
others.
I think the part of having a clear roadmap to follow and having that accountability structure to make sure you're on track and making sure that, like, I have this tendency to do, like how Anju mentioned, overwhelming myself or getting too bogged down or being like, either aim too much or too little, and either ways I'm feeling down. So it's good to have that externalized in some way, at least with someone who, is doing the hard work of thinking versus us getting stuck in the weeds, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I posted on LinkedIn once, like a coach is like having this professional to sort of unravel the hairball for you and like with
Right.
you, right? So it's actually a really good point. Yes, I'm here to do the thinking, but of course you are as well. But it's to organize your thoughts, and it's to put structure, and it's to give accountability, and it's to create that roadmap. So truly, half the battle is just giving the time and space to sort of speak it out loud, whether it's a coach or a mentor or a peer, whoever it may be. Giving it the time and the space on whatever cadence you can is a great starting point, because that's exactly allowing you to start the conversation, right? So you can figure out who's going to help you, but truly just giving the time and space, even if it's a meeting with yourself, is a great place to start.
Thank you so much. And thank you, VIT team, for making this happen. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, Rachel. I think we're going to end. Thank you so much. You are truly amazing. And I think I'm calling you. So we will send out a recap, everyone, with Rachel's information, how you can get in touch with her. Please follow her on LinkedIn. And thank you again. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Bye.